What's up, world? I'm Cameron McKinney, and this is Pop Culture Spotlight, a podcast about the movie Pressure. Here's a quick synopsis. Before General Dwight D. Eisenhower can deploy his planned invasion of Nazi-occupied Europe, he must first seek the advice of expert meteorologists. The film stars Andrew Scott, Brendan Fraser, Carrie Condon, Chris Messina, and Damian Lewis. Standout performances. After Wake Up Dead Man, I was worried about the film career of Andrew Scott because I think he's a very good actor but did not fit that role and movie well whatsoever. And I'm happy to report with the last two of his movies, I feel a lot better. The first being Richard Linklater's Blue Moon, a movie I think overall is very good, not great. Scott is brilliant as Richard Rogers. He's an actor you want to see be given great dialogue. And then you have Pressure. It's the perfect leading role for Andrew Scott, who is playing James Staggs, who is a bit of a know-it-all and is very professional. He is a meteorologist who advises Eisenhower to push back D-Day. I am a sucker for a movie about a guy who is super smart and brilliant, but does not get along well with others. Scott, like his Sherlock co-star Benedict Cumberbatch, is very believable playing these kinds of characters, so I'm back on board with Andrew Scott in movies. He's a big name, so he's always going to be given a lot of opportunities. Some of them work, some of them don't. Thankfully, Pressure did. Scott will next star in the movies A Place in Hell with Michelle Williams and Daisy Edgar Jones, Elsinore with Olivia Colman, Walk the Blue Fields with Emily Blunt, and Fonda with Mia Goth and Odessa Azion. Growing up, I did not take Brendan Fraser as an actor very seriously. He was just the guy from George of the Jungle and Dudley Do-Right, both cartoons created by Jay Ward. And looking back, he was giving good performances in dramas and wasn't getting a ton of credit for them. 1992's School Ties with Matt Damon and Chris O'Donnell, 1998's Gods and Monsters with Sir Ian McKellen, and 2002's The Quiet American with Sir Michael Caine. Fraser was good in these films, but was rarely the standout of them, and like most people, I went through a long period of not thinking about him as an actor because he wasn't as prevalent as he once was. The comeback for me began with Steven Soderbergh's No Sudden Move. It's a supporting role, but he fits right in. And then, of course, he wins the Best Actor at the Oscars for The Whale, and since then, he's given good turns in Killers of the Flower Moon and Rental Family. What got me interested in this movie Pressure in the first place was seeing Fraser play the giant historical figure Dwight D. Eisenhower. I don't really think of Fraser as someone who transforms from his roles. He has more of a movie star essence, but he makes sense for this version of Eisenhower, and what I mean by that is, in the movie, we see him be emotional about the loss of his men. Fraser does a great job of conveying the gravity of the moment. I don't think this performance is going to get him a second Oscar nomination, but Fraser is more than solid in this film. Fraser is set to return to his beloved franchise with a new Mummy sequel in the works, and the key to this one is the return of Rachel Weisz. I'm super hyped for this film, and I really hope it turns out well. Carrie Condon, since getting an Oscar nomination for The Banshees of Inisherin, has really impressed me with her work in F1. That's a part that really should not work, and it does because she has amazing chemistry with Brad Pitt, and she's just a really good actress. Train Dreams, which she enters late but makes a real impact on, and in Pressure, she plays Kay Summersby, who was Eisenhower's personal secretary and confidant. Maybe it's a cliche thing to say, but she brings real humanity to the movie and is why the film works on an emotional level. And I think that's the key to this movie. It's why it stands out against some of these other movies about historical events, because you watch some of those films and they feel like a history lesson. They feel boring. This movie works because the performances are emotional and they get you to care about these people as human beings. And Carrie Condon is a big reason why. Alright, I'm going to make a big claim here that as of this moment, no supporting actor has had a better run in the 2020s than Chris Messina. He's given stellar performances in Birds of Prey. Him and Ewan McGregor are my favorite part of that movie. I Care a Lot, a movie full of good performances, both in 2020. In 2023, he was in Ben Affleck's Air, playing Michael Jordan's agent, David Falk. He's really going for it in that film in such a fun way. In 2024, he plays a lawyer in Clint Eastwood's Juror Number 2. In Pressure, Messina plays Irving P. Kirk, an American meteorologist who doesn't agree with stags at first. I just find this actor to be endlessly entertaining. The definition of a scene stealer. Chris Messina will next be in the movie Lear Rex, a star-studded adaptation of King Lear with Al Pacino, Jessica Chastain, Ariana DeBose, Rachel Brosnahan, Lakeith Stanfield, and Peter Dinklage. And finally, Damian Lewis is best known for his work on not one but two hit TV series on Showtime, Homeland, winning an Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama, and Billions. This is without competition his best role in a movie. In Pressure, the Emmy-winning actor plays Bernard Montgomery, a battle-hungry army officer who wants D-Day to happen no matter the weather. I entered this movie thinking this was a weird cast to put together. I mean, Andrew Scott and Brendan Fraser in a movie together, that's a weird combination, but it really does work out. Obviously, when talking about a World War II film, you need to talk about the other great films of the genre. I'm talking about the Saving Private Ryans of the world, The Thin Red Line, and the more current Dunkirk. Pressure is a very different kind of movie because those movies are more visceral. They're more of a spectacle. I would say that Pressure is more of a character study. It's about this specific element of D-Day. It's about what the weather is going to be like when we invade. One could argue that doesn't sound like the most exciting movie you've ever heard of. The entertainment, at least in my opinion, comes from the performances of the actors. And that's not something you can say about every great World War II film. I mean, people don't talk about Dunkirk because of the great performances, even though I think there is a great performance in that movie being given by one Tom Hardy. It's not about the performances, it's about that movie. It's about the filmmaking of Dunkirk as well. The same thing goes for Saving Private Ryan. Yes, Tom Hanks is giving one of the best performances of his career, but that is a director-driven movie. That movie is all about how great Steven Spielberg is as a filmmaker. And I give Pressure a lot of credit. It's not trying to compete with those other movies. It's not trying to be like Dunkirk or like Saving Private Ryan. It is being its own thing. And it's very effective. I don't know if I'm going to watch Pressure as much as I've watched Dunkirk. I don't know if it's a war movie that's going to live with me for the next decade or so, but it is a movie I really enjoyed, and I think it is a movie that most people should go and see. Maybe it doesn't have the star power of The Thin Red Line, but Brendan Fraser is an Oscar winner. Andrew Scott has been in massive TV shows, and he's been in really good movies as well. More and more, I'm just growing a stronger appreciation for movies that know what they are. Pressure knows what it is. It's not trying to be more, and it's not giving you less. It's giving you just the right amount of emotions. It's making you feel empathy for these characters, but not by being corny in any way whatsoever. I also think it's a compliment to the movie that it doesn't take itself too seriously. We all know the bad versions of this kind of movie. Here's this actor you really like, Brendan Fraser, playing this historical figure, Dwight D. Eisenhower. In some bad versions of this movie, he would be giving an over-the-top, ridiculous performance that may have a chance of getting an Oscar nomination. Like, he might really be going for it in the absolute worst version of this movie. But I think Brendan Fraser is being brilliantly subtle with this performance in Pressure. And I think the real brilliance of this movie is allowing Andrew Scott to be the lead of the film, playing this guy, James Staggs, who I don't know how many people are familiar with the story, and this meteorologist, because he is the most compelling character in this story. He is going through a personal crisis while also being a part of D-Day. And maybe this is an element that gets overplayed in movies, but I really do find it fascinating when a guy thinks it's a curse to be right. And that's the sense you get from this character, that it is a real pain to always be right, that it's not always a good thing to be the smartest guy in the room. I've heard critics compare this performance that Scott is giving to what Benedict Cumberbatch does in The Imitation Game, one of my favorite movies. I think Cumberbatch is brilliant playing smart characters. He, of course, has played Sherlock, a fictional genius, and two real-life geniuses in Alan Turing and Thomas Edison. And, of course, he brought that know-it-all energy to Doctor Strange in the Marvel Universe. And in that same vein, after seeing Pressure, I would like to see Andrew Scott give more of these kinds of performances, playing these brilliantly complicated men. Probably one of my favorite aspects about this movie is about how Chris Messina's character wants to get people on his side. He wants everyone to agree with him. Andrew Scott's character, Staggs, does not care about who agrees with him because he knows he's right. It's not about getting people on his side. It's about getting people to understand he has the correct answer. He knows what the weather is going to be on D-Day. You need to listen to him or you're going to be wrong. Oscar chances. I don't think Pressure is going to be a major Oscar contender, even if I wanted to be. But if this came out 20 years ago, it would be a guarantee. It feels like the war films that get recognized nowadays, Dunkirk in 1917, are bigger movies, and they're about the battles themselves. They also happen to be giant hits at the box office. If I were voting for the Oscars, absolutely Andrew Scott would get a nomination for Best Leading Actor. I think at the end of the day, he will be one of the best 5 performances of 2026. And Brendan Fraser would probably get a nomination for Best Supporting Actor as well. And what's crazy about me saying that is they were my concern walking into this movie. I did not know how Brendan Fraser would fare playing a historical figure like Dwight D. Eisenhower, and I'm really happy that he brought himself to the role. He's an emotional actor. He gave an emotional, empathetic performance. He gave a performance I think only Brendan Fraser could give. My biggest fear was that he was going to give a prototypical performance in a historical movie that would be boring and that any other actor would give. But thankfully, he brought himself to the role. He still felt like the movie star that he is in the movie Pressure. And like I said earlier, I had mixed feelings about Andrew Scott in movies after seeing Wake Up Dead Man. But he really carries this film in a way he's never done before in any movie ever. You hope that word of mouth helps this movie. It's gotten good reviews. You hope more people see this movie when it hits a streaming service. And you hope at the end of the day that it gets a surprise Oscar nomination or two. Sometimes when we think and talk about war movies, we're really only thinking about one thing, when in reality, war films can be so many different things, they can be so many different genres, and they can also be about one specific moment. Like a film doesn't need to encapsulate all of World War II. It can be about one specific element, and in the case of Pressure, it's all about the weather. Right, personally, when I think about war films, I think about films that have a young cast, usually of actors who are on the rise. I'm talking about Black Hawk Down, a movie with Ewan McGregor, Orlando Bloom, and Josh Hartnett, actors who are not yet stars, but are coming up. The protagonist of a war film is not typically a weatherman. I want to get into that character a little bit more because I do think, even though it's based on a real life character, that the worst version of this movie would make the character of Stagg more likable. He immediately enters the picture and you're like, you understand why all the other expert meteorologists do not get along with this guy, because he is demanding. He has a very clear way of how he wants things done. And the movie wisely tells you why Eisenhower is apprehensive to listen to this guy, because he's had success without him. It's not like they've been getting the weather wrong all along. Whether or not you connect to this movie Pressure the way I have, I think is going to come down to one crucial scene, and that scene is when Andrew Scott Stagg is telling people why they should listen to him. He basically says, the only reason you don't believe me right now is because you want me to be wrong. That was Scott's best acting moment in that movie. It really resonated with me. I think it made the entire movie come together. It made that performance come together. I did not enter this movie with great expectations. I only really wanted to watch it because it had an interesting cast, and it ended up being way better than I thought it was going to be. And that's something we need in movies. We need pleasant surprises. I mean, too often I'm over anticipating a movie that usually lets me down. Like right now, I'm waiting and I'm anticipating Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. I don't know what that movie is going to be, but my expectations are sky high. I enjoy the fact that I didn't walk into Pressure with huge expectations. I was just like, this is a movie starring Brendan Fraser as Dwight D. Eisenhower. This can be either good or bad. And luckily, it was the former. I really believe it's the worst feeling in the world when a movie ends up being bad. You're like, this feels like a waste of time. I don't even like movies anymore. You can sometimes have that feeling after watching a bad movie. And with this one, I had the opposite feeling. I was kind of blown away by the movie. I want to see more films with Andrew Scott in a leading role. That is not something I anticipated feeling coming into the movie. I hope this leads to more leading roles for Andrew Scott, and I hope that Brendan Fraser's comeback run continues. He is doing a good job of picking the right movies to be a part of. The way I often feel about movies is if you get two noteworthy performances, you're watching a good movie. This is a movie that has 5 really good performances from 5 really good actors. How many movies in 2026 have 5 really good performances at the center of them? That's a hard thing to find. I think nowadays most movies usually have one great performance from the lead. The selling point is that one leading performance, and those are the kinds of movies that I find to be really boring. This is the kind of movie you're like, wow, Andrew Scott is dominating this movie. Now Chris Messina is dominating this movie. Brendan Fraser is given a great moment here. Every actor fits into the movie, and every actor is cast in the perfect role for them. I'm not sure I would like to see Brendan Fraser play Dwight D. Eisenhower in a 3-hour biopic of the former president. But in this role, in a supporting role in Pressure, he's beyond effective. And this is a perfect example of a film using the star power of an actor in the right way. This is the right use of one Brendan Fraser. Pressure could definitely end up being a movie I rewatch a lot in the coming years, a film that I think will only grow in stature. I don't know if the Oscars are going to celebrate the movie in the moment. I think they should, but it's a movie that audiences are going to find because it's a very good movie that I eventually could end up thinking is a great film. Thanks for listening to this edition of Pop Culture Spotlight. I'm Cameron McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Thursday on Apple Podcast and Spotify. I highly recommend you check out Pressure. Next week on the podcast, I'm talking about Steven Spielberg's Disclosure Day, starring Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, and Coleman Domingo. So tune into that, and please rate, review, and subscribe.